First story about children's memory. My father did not swear. He spoke only in foul language. So I was 100% sure that the word WK means to green surfaces with sandpaper. Well, one day I'm sitting in the sandbox, cooking pies from the sand. Neighbor comes to me and asks, "Baby, where's the daddy?" So I calmly answer, "He's in the garage, WKing." The neighbor has eyes like fish, gulps air with his mouth, and says in a stammering voice, "Eh, then I won't go there." I calm him down and explain, "It's okay, you can't go into the garage only when he paints or works with sharp tools, and then he WKing you can, it's not dangerous." I see the neighbor walking towards the house where my mom is. I yell back at him, "Where are you going?" The garage is on the other side, and he just keeps pulling in and yelling my mom's name. I think he's crazy, and I continue my cooking in the sand. I see my mother running out, running to the garage, hitting my father with a towel, my father laughing. Neighbor. Second story, in response to about children's memory. My mom used to tell me this story. When I was about 4 to 5 years old, my parents bought the first car in the family. The car was not new, but the joy and excitement was like now from a new foreign car. And so we drove it to the country house. The road is a country road, all in bumps, and here, on one of them, we have a muffler's falls off. The car is roaring. My dad throws the phrase, "Muffler is FK'd. We've got to go to the pit." I don't remember my parents swearing at me, and hearing this new word for me, my childish brain apparently decided to memorize it. The car was safely repaired, and everyone has already forgotten about this small trouble. Everyone but not me. A few months later, my mom and I go to the kindergarten in the morning. We approach the road, stop in front of the crosswalk, next to two-man stop. And then there is a car with the characteristic sound of missing muffler. I see off the car with a specialist look and say, "Muffler is FK'd. He got to go to the pit." My mom blushes. The man next to me, almost falling down from laughter, praise me for the correct diagnosis. I, satisfied with myself, walk to kindergarten. Third story, cooked. 17th. A small scientific team. The chief returned from a business trip and joyfully says, "I brought coffee beans from Korea. My wife will roast them and treat you to coffee." He comes back the next day. "So, name, did your wife roast the coffee?" "She fried it in big lard. I washed it. It didn't help." Fourth story. Sexual revolution. Talking to a friend. Yeah, people are more liberated about sex now than they were 10 years ago. You're telling me? Now we can get a group of 10 people together in an hour. Even less than that. We'll just have to find one girl who is willing to do it. If we're honest to the end, that's not necessary. Fifth story. Sure, that's different. The story is not about bullying at school, but very close to it. My neighbor has a daughter in 7th grade. Let's call her name. She's not a small girl, I must say. Not fat, but large. They say blood with milk about such people. She's clearly like her father. Name wasn't even tiny before, and now she is bigger than the rest of her classmates. Well, in fact, because of this, she is periodically bullied and called names by the other little kids in the class. But she is a fighting girl. She knows how to stand up for herself. Doesn't swear back. Doesn't scandalize. Just slaps them in the ass with the backpack. And always with a serene, bored look on her face. And then suddenly, their class was transferred to distance learning because of the seasonal exacerbation of acute respiratory infections. Some regular classes going on. The teacher in a general conference is questioning name on the topic, and at this moment one of her classmates, just one of those small ones who regularly tease her, sends the girl picture of a cow. Well, we all understand with what hint. Well, name, not thinking long, and all shouting to him, "FKU, buddy." The teacher was immediately alarmed. Who? What? Where? Why? What kind of misbehavior? In front of the teacher. Shame on you. So after the lesson, she leaves the girl to sort out the situation. Name tries to explain her reaction, saying that this boy insults her all the time. But the teacher, as it often happens, takes the side of the bully. What makes you think he meant to insult you? He just sent you a picture. It's nothing like that. You made it up. In fact, be smart, ignore it, and all that kind of stuff. Name listened with a stone face, and at the end of the lecture, took and threw the same picture with a cow to the teacher, who, by the way, is a very healthy and burly lady, and accompanied it with a short phrase. Do not take it as an insult. And, guess who in this situation remained an unscrupulous and ill-mannered child, whose parents get an angry complaint on WhatsApp. Name's father says there was so much screaming on the voice box that the speakers were rattling, and then he got into the whole situation and said that he would not even think of scolding his daughter for this incident. The teacher got even more angry. I don't know how it ended. Sixth story. The Heart to Educate. Name, a friend of mine, blacklisted his parents' phone numbers, and then his mother came to see him at work. He told the security guard, he works at a secure enterprise, to call the police. I have no parents. I've been an orphan since childhood, he said. Clearly some kind of fraud. The story goes like this. Name was raised by his maternal grandmother, since he was taken from his alcoholic parents' apartment as a 3-year-old child, with a piece of moldy bread clenched in his fist, which they couldn't take away. His grandmother moved to our region from afar, gave her last savings for a 2-bedroom on the outskirts of the city, and since then Name has seen his parents a couple times a year. Usually they came to his grandmother to borrow without giving the money back. They never paid alimony themselves because they never really worked. Name grew up, graduated from a university, found a good job. He grieved for a long time when his grandmother passed away. At that time it seemed to him that relations with his parents became a little better. They began to communicate little by little with his mother, who told him that she stopped drinking, found a job, and realized everything. The moment of realization lasted until the mother received from Name 3,000 prepayment for a monument to his grandmother. Say, let me help you, son. You are so busy at work. It's my duty. It is clear that she disappeared with the money. Name was 25 at that time. For the next 7 to 8 years, his mother periodically found him and asked him for money, usually relatively small amounts, up to $100, and he admitted that he seemed to understand that his mother needed it only for that, but it was worth it to her to say son and start crying, as he himself almost cries and cannot refuse. That's how it is, a man in a good management position, many useful connections, and an influential figure himself, with 100 people in his subordinate, but two down-and-out alcoholics can literally twist ropes out of him. And recently his mother called and sobbed into the phone, saying that his father had a stroke at the country house and was taken unconscious by ambulance to the city hospital, but they had been taking him from floor to floor in the different departments for 2 hours and could not make a diagnosis, and the count was counting down to minutes. Name himself did not realize, he said, how in a minute he was shaking hands and dialing the number of a very influential person who could find out what was going on in the hospital. And then in the hospital the picture is as follows. This influential person calls the chief physician and says that the ambulance has brought a patient in a serious condition. It is necessary to save him urgently, but the doctors do not move. The chief physician himself ran to the departments to look for this patient, and he found him. It turned out that Name's father had drank cheap alcohol to white fever, fell at the country house, hit his head, and lay unconscious for 3 days. In any case, his wife, who had sent him out to purge potatoes, realized only 3 days later that the man had not returned. She went to the country house, and he was lying there. Even before the important man's call, doctors from several departments had conscientiously examined the patient, and, finding nothing to his liking, sent him away, while his wife kept shouting that her husband did not take a drop of alcohol in his mouth. In a word, almost all doctors ran to look at this especially important patient. It turned out to be a homeless man with fever. So the important person was told. The patient was found. He had alcoholic delirium. In general, Name was disgraced. A few days later, his mother calls and asks for money for medicine in a husky voice. They say that there is nothing in the hospital, and calls the amount that is required, something like $42. But Name, already knowing that it is impossible to give money to his mother, came to the hospital himself and talked to the head nurse. There it turned out that his father did not need any medication, but the nurse told that the mother, when she comes to visit, tells everyone that the son left them with his father, earns good money and does not help, that he did not even bring a flower to a grandmother's grave, and they gave all the money and all the strength to bring up the only son. So he blacklisted his parents' cell phones, and when his mother came to his workplace and persistently tried to get behind the counter, he told the guards to call the police. "I have no parents. I've been an orphan since I was a kid," he said. Clearly some kind of fraud. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.